It means stable housing, open communication, and support for your neighbors facing hard times. I'm Marcus Jones. As your next council member, I'll bring practical, calm leadership rooted in service. We'll invest in long-term safety and work toward affordable housing that keeps families together. I'm not running for headlines. I'm running for results. Let's build a safer, stronger Ward 9 together. Visit marcusjones.com and get involved and attend your local caucus on April 8th.
This advertisement was paid for by Marcus Jones, candidate for Ward 9 of Minneapolis City Council. With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Sunshine today with a high of 40, then tonight clear with a low of 25. The best roast beef sandwiches and so much more can be found at Maverick's Real Roast Beef in Roseville. And don't forget to pair your selection with freshly fried onion rings or fries for a winning combination. Mavericks is located on Lexington Avenue, a mile south of Highway 36. Visit their website at mavericksbeef.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Broadcasting live from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Welcome to The Gailey Show. Also streaming live right now on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@thegailey show. I'm your host, John Parker. In studio with me, executive producer Jim Pound.
Hey all.
And keeping this rocket ship flying, Patrick Lilia in the control room. How you doing, Patrick?
It's only about 3 feet off the ground, but I'm doing my best.
We're flying. We're going across the radio waves. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
On the show today, we're going to take a look at the new Minnesota Council on LGBTQIA2S plus Minnesotans. Emma Watts, the council's first executive director, is going to join us in the second half hour to talk about their new initiative, a statewide community needs assessment. And if you haven't been looking at LGBTQ work throughout the state, data is important. So this is going to be big. We want to talk to Emma all about it. But up first, Jake Wittich returns to the show. Jake is the managing editor of Chicago's Windy City Times, published since 1985. Windy City Times and its reporters have won numerous local and national journalism and community awards. Windy City Times special investigative projects have been cited as important contributions to the community, and their staff have also been engaged deeply in the community, helping to organize events such as the Gay Games, LGBTQ youth summits, marches for equality. So we are very happy to have Jake. Welcome back to The Gailey Show.
Hello, it's good to be back.
All right, so let's start with a story that you've been covering from the beginning. Chicago Women in Trades. They sued the Trump administration earlier this year, arguing that his executive orders were unlawful in their attempt to end workplace diversity, equity, and inclusion programming. What is the status of that lawsuit?
Yeah, so the lawsuit is ongoing. There's a hearing actually set for this Friday, but the latest is that a federal judge issued a temporary restraining order. And what's really important about this is it's going to prevent the Trump administration from canceling or pausing any of the federal grants that go to the Chicago Women in Trades group. So it's seen as a big win for them, but there's more work that they want to do.
And remind our listeners what exactly Chicago Women in Trades does for folks.
Yeah, so they're a nonprofit based here in Chicago, but they do work nationally, and they're committed to basically improving women's participation in traditionally male-dominated industries like the trade.
And their funding was at stake, correct?
Yeah, I think it was about like 40% of their funding came from federal grants. So their whole future as an organization was really at stake here. So this temporary restraining order was seen as a big win for them. We'll see how long it's temporary. You know, they want to get something permanent in place here. So they've told me their next steps are to extend this restraining order. The hearing on Friday will probably determine whether that's possible, and then ultimately just permanently have a restraining order.
And the restraining order was prohibiting the Department of Labor from doing 3 actions for them. Do you recall what those 3 actions were that they're specifically stopping them from doing to Chicago Trades?
Yeah, the first and most important one is it stops them from canceling or pausing any federal grants under the termination. So, it's just stopping them from canceling or pausing any of these federal grants. The second thing is it's requiring any grantee or contractor nationwide. It is requiring any grantee or contractor nationwide to make a certification related to the executive orders. And then it's also preventing them from enforcing any action against Chicago women in trades for violating these anti-DEI provisions that they're establishing.
Wow. So what are you expecting then? So the hearing is this Friday. Or anything that you're watching out for as you're covering the story?
Yeah, it's actually this Thursday. I had my dates wrong. Yeah, but I'm not too sure what to expect. I do think the restraining order will be extended. We'll see. You know, there's been other restraining orders related to other executive orders that, for example, with gender affirming care for trans youth, the hospitals still are not offering those services, even though there are restraining orders. So are people going to follow these restraining orders or not is kind of what I am wondering. So.
Do we know then the enforcement of that?
I'm not too sure. Yeah, I'd like to look more into that though.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we will definitely stay tuned to your reporting on this particular case because there's a lot, and hopefully the Trump administration will continue their losing streak.
Right.
If we could turn to Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, if that's okay.
Yeah.
His name comes up a lot as a potential presidential candidate for 2028. It came up last year as well before President Biden threw his weight behind Vice President Kamala Harris. He was in front of, or at rather, the Human Rights Campaign's Los Angeles dinner about a week ago. What was he saying in that speech to folks?
Yeah, he gave a really impassioned, fiery speech, just kind of rallying people in support of LGBTQ plus rights. One thing that really stood out to me is his words on supporting the trans community. He said that as a party, we're not going to take, he called it the soul-sucking path of sacrificing the most vulnerable people in our community, kind of in order to score political points. We talked the last time I was on here about politicians like Gavin Newsom, kind of backtracking his support for certain transgender rights. Former Mayor Rahm Emanuel from Chicago also did the same. So it's pretty noteworthy that a governor whose name is in the running to run for president is saying, as a party, we're not going to do this, you know?
I was impressed at how just direct he was. And it just almost felt like he was naming names without naming names.
Exactly. Yeah.
Particularly for a former mayor of Chicago. And, you know, Rahm Emanuel, I mean, he said something really, really gross. It was just, my jaw hit. I was like, really, dude? He was saying something to the effect of, if I had known that I could just use they, them pronouns or say that I was trans, then I would have said that so they could get into the girls' bathroom.
It's just strange. Like, so creepy men are the reason that trans women are being published, like punished. Right. I don't get it, but
yeah,
it's like the problem is that.
Dude, like, first of all, just read the room on that, but also like Me Too movement. Like, hey, like, what are you doing here? But Governor Newsom, he even took it further because not only was he saying shady things with, you know, his guests from MAGA world, but he was also sending his aides to the legislature in California and saying, do not send me any more trans legislation, which was just shocking. So I was really happy to see a governor, in this instance Pritzker, just come out so strongly and just no uncertain terms that no, we are not giving up on the trans community.
Can I ask a very subjective question about Pritzker? Because Chicago's known as a tough town. That's not an easy place to do business or politics, right? And so I've always thought of him as kind of hard-nosed and tough and all that. And then he was doing a lot of comedic, funny, calling, changing the name of Lake Michigan or whatever, he's kind of being funny, which I didn't equate with a hard-nosed, tough town like Chicago. So what is your take on him? Is he evolving as a politician? Is he changing as a politician, or does he have that many facets? Because most of them don't. They're kind of one thing, right? And he seems to be several.
Yeah, I think he's pretty multifaceted, and I've been surprised. It's no secret he's a billionaire. I've been surprised at how left-leaning he can be at sometimes. For example, when the coronavirus pandemic first started, he was very like, we are, as a state, are going to make sure people are taken care of. You're out of work, we're going to take care of you. So I was surprised to see a billionaire be so financially liberal, I guess.
Right.
I saw his name on the list of donors to the Wisconsin Supreme Court race for Judge Crawford as well, which I thought. I mean, yeah, I don't know why that surprised me, but I thought it was interesting to see because he is a billionaire. So he has some deep coffers to donate to liberal candidates.
And he probably wants to drive safely from Illinois into Minnesota, and you need Wisconsin to do that.
Yeah. I mean, and going back to what he said about trans people and supporting them, one thing I am wondering is he going to weigh in on this issue of gender affirming care being paused at some Illinois hospitals? We had another protest the day before Trans Day of Visibility. I was there covering it. There were about, I'd say, 3,000 people that came out. Really great lineup of speakers. People were impassioned, but Lurie Children's Hospital and Northwestern Hospital still have their gender affirming care procedures paused on youth. And that's even with a restraining order there. And Attorney General Kwame Raoul, he signed a letter with a bunch of attorney generals from around the country saying, we're not going to enforce this executive order that Trump signed, and it violates the Illinois Human Rights Act. But then last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago, I was just in New York, it's a blur, but Kwame Raoul was speaking at a local event, and he said, like, well, maybe the hospitals aren't bad actors here, and maybe they're not violating the law. So it seems like even he is backtracking. So I'm just curious, is Pritzker going to lay down the law on this issue or something like that?
Yeah.
Our attorney general has been saying similar things, that it violates state constitutions and state laws and human rights acts. So it is curious to me, and I know we'll have to stay tuned to your reporting to see what Lurie's does or doesn't do, if they're going to wait for a final ruling or not. It's worrisome. I'm sure you finding that in your reporting too, for all the kids who are sitting here in limbo.
And that's another thing Pritzker touched on in his speech at the Human Rights Campaign dinner. He said there's children out here watching, and they need to know that people are standing up for them. And he said, I am, we are, we will. But that's what I think of too. I remember being a young teenager and seeing them debate marriage equality and whether gay people could serve in the military. And it really takes a toll on youth mentally. So I just worry about these the horrible rhetoric surrounding trans people. And I can't imagine being a trans kid and having to hear that.
Well, I mean, yes, to your point, I think I remember hearing President Obama go, I'm just not comfortable with gay marriage. And I'm like, I don't care if you're comfortable or not. In his first campaign, I'm like, just because you're uncomfortable, that means none of us get to, I was
right.
like, but yeah, it can have damaging effects. Has Governor Pritzker's, his record rather matched his rhetoric?
I think so. He's passed, I said this before, he's passed a lot of legislation supporting especially trans people. It's, for example, you can amend your birth certificate a lot easier if you have a name change or if you change your gender or anything like that. He's just done a lot of work for the community. So.
Well, we are talking with Jake Wittich, managing editor of Chicago's Windy City Times. We have to fit in a break here. We're going to have more with Jake when we come back. We are going to talk about the reaction to potential closures to the CDC, as well as a really tragic story of an individual who is being evicted from his housing. So keep it tuned here to The Gailey Show. Follow us on Blue Sky for more progressive news and analysis. We're at thegaileyshow.org on Blue Sky.
Hey, it's Tom. Even though I don't live in Minnesota, I've spent enough time there to know how quickly the weather can change. One day it's sunny and the next you're preparing for severe weather. That's where solar plus battery storage from All Energy Solar comes in. With this power-saving combination, you'll gain energy independence and stay connected through blackouts, emergencies, or extreme weather. Solar plus battery storage is perfect for rural areas where power outages are more common, or for anyone tired of worrying about rolling blackouts. And with plenty of incentives still available, All Energy Solar will work with you to make sure you get the most savings possible. For over 15 years, All Energy Solar has been a trusted partner in helping Minnesotans move to affordable, renewable energy. They offer the best battery technology and their own licensed electricians and contractors to ensure top quality installation. So stop paying the utility company and start generating and saving your own power. Get a free consultation today at allenergysolar.com.
Hey, it's Patrick. Spring showers may bring Mayflowers, but they also bring big savings with Zero Res. And right now, you can beat the spring cleaning rush with big savings and priority booking by calling our heroes at Zero Res. Zero Res removes winter's buildup and lingering odors, giving your home a fresh, spring-ready feel, preparing your home for the brighter days ahead. Just check out the almost 21,000 raving customer service reviews online with a 4.9 Google rating and see what all the hype is about. This month, get 3 rooms Zero Resified from Minnesota's #1 carpet cleaner, starting at just $119, and take $75 off an air duct cleaning as well. You owe it to yourself and your family to breathe healthy, happy, and clean. Call Zero Res right now at 9520-RES or go online to ZeroResMinnesota.com and say you want the AM 950 special. Spell it backward or forward, it's the same. Zero Res.
With Donald Trump in office, blue cities like Minneapolis have a real opportunity to show what effective Democratic governance looks like. But we need the right leaders. 90% of the time, the DFL-endorsed city council candidate wins in November. That's why the caucus matters. It's your chance to decide what kind of Democrat represents our party. Minneapolis needs leaders focused on safety, affordability, and opportunity, proving blue cities can be a model for Democrats. Yet, only 2% of registered voters participate, and often their views don't reflect the majority of Democrats. But they show up because they know it's the most important way to support their candidate. This year on April 8th, be part of the change you want in your city and party. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. If you care about public safety, city leadership, and the future of Minneapolis, you need to be at the caucuses. Visit WeLoveMPLS.org today to learn how easy it is to caucus. Show up, speak out, take action.
Paid for by We Love Minneapolis. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Welcome back to the Gailey Show. I am your host, John Parker. It is 21 minutes past the hour. And for folks in Minnesota, if you were at one of the 25,000 people that were at the rally, the Hands Off rally this weekend, why aren't you going to the caucus? If democracy was that important to you, you need to go to your caucuses and make your voices heard to make sure that the DFL is doing what you want them to be doing, to standing up to Trump's agenda. Cities are very powerful in terms of policy making, so make sure that you check out where you can caucus if you are a Minneapolis resident tomorrow night. We are here with Jake Wittich, who is the managing editor of Chicago's Windy City Times, bellwether, amazing journalism, and just one of the nation's top LGBTQ newspapers. So we are very lucky to have Jake with us. Jake, you had a story this past week that the phrase beggar's belief came up many times as I was reading it. It is about, we've been covering here the challenges facing older LGBTQ adults. And you were reporting on Don Bell. Mr. Bell is the chair of the Illinois Commission on LGBTQ plus Aging, lifelong LGBTQ activist, civil rights leader, and he's facing eviction from Town Hall Apartments. Oh, I think we lost you, Jake.
My apologies. As you said, Don Bell is a lifelong activist here in Chicago, and he's done a lot of work for the community. And one of the things he did was advocated for this. It's called Town Hall Apartments. It's an LGBTQ plus affirming senior living facility. It's like the only in the state. He advocated for it to be built. He moved there the day it opened in 2014. If you look at Windy City Times coverage of it, there he is next to Mayor Emanuel during the ribbon cutting. And he's currently, actually tomorrow, set to be evicted from the building.
Now, so he's literally the chair of the Illinois Department of Aging's LGBTQ Advocacy Commission. So what are the allegations against him?
Yeah, the building managers are basically accusing him of harboring illegal activity due to some accusations against his spouse, who is a 28-year-old man who Don met within the last year. They really hit it off, and they found something in each other that they never thought they'd find in their lifetime. There's a few allegations against his husband that the town hall management hasn't been too forthcoming about what they're charging him of. But the central thing is they're accusing him of trespassing, and they're saying that Don Bell assisted him in trespassing into the building so he could do these illegal activities. So they're pursuing him civilly and criminally. There's been no conviction, but Don is being evicted.
Are the court trials ongoing or are the trials over?
They're ongoing. Yeah.
How do you trespass into your own residence?
Yeah, Don wasn't the one trespassing. It was his husband who didn't live there at the time. And then when they got married, Don actually called the Chicago Housing Authority, which is involved in this partnership, managing town hall apartments. And they're like, oh, he's your spouse. He can live there. But then he got home from the wedding ceremony to find his key fob was turned off, and they wouldn't let his husband in. So it's a very convoluted story, and it leaves Don in a very vulnerable position. You know, he's in his 70s, he's 75 years old. A lot of older gay people have to go back into the closet as they get older. So it really, and you know, he's got a few disabilities. His husband can't even help him pack to move out right now. So he's doing that on his own. And he has no housing lined up. So you know, the wait list for subsidized housing can be like 2 years long at minimum. So it's a really unfortunate situation that he's in when he kind of founded this building.
Does somebody think it's some sort of harassment, or it's just like, ignorance, or just like some weird bureaucratic thing?
It seems to me a little bureaucratic. I've known Don for quite some time, and I spoke with him, and I kind of asked the same thing, like, why are they targeting you like this? Like, and he didn't really want to answer too much about his current friendship or former friendship with the building's property manager, but there was some breakdown, and Don feels like he's never really been given a chance to share his side of the story. He's just been punished.
Wow.
Well, this is the first generation of folks.
Exactly.
Who have been out for part of or the majority of their lives, and they're finding themselves having to go back into the closet, going into these, homes or, senior living because of the environments that they're in. So to have the situation was just, it was shocking.
Yeah.
Is there any way for folks to support Mr. Bell if they would like to do so?
Yeah, there's a GoFundMe. If you go to, it's not an easy link. So if you go to windycitytimes.com and search Don Bell, you'll find the story, and we link to his GoFundMe. So far, it's raised about $10,000. He's still raising more. It's going to help him find a new home. It's going to help with his legal expenses and things like that.
Wow. Okay. All right. I don't want to say real quickly here, but you had some reporting so Trump wants to close the Center for Disease Control and Prevention's Division of HIV Prevention, because why not? And this is clearly rocking communities across the country. What has the impact meant in Chicago?
Yeah, I mean, we have more than 38,000 people living with HIV in Illinois. So it's going to impact a lot of people. And the communities that are going to be most hit are the ones that are most vulnerable. It's going to be people who are Black and brown communities, trans people, and Black women, where we see the highest HIV rates. I spoke with the CEO of the Center on Halstead, which runs a resource called the HIV Hub with the AIDS Foundation of Chicago, who I also spoke to. And they're both really ringing the alarm, saying this is going to hit our most marginalized communities the hardest. And the CDC has a lot of expertise on how to reach these communities. So without that arm, we're losing a lot of support there.
Do you know what's next in the story for this? Is there a lawsuit coming, or I imagine there's got to be a lawsuit somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lawsuit coming. There was a letter signed by like more than a dozen, senators, Congress people all over the country, but it included about a dozen senators from Illinois to the president, urging him not to do this. So that happened. I'm trying to look at what the next steps are, because people really want action items right now. The news is so sad. So I'm trying to every story be like, here's a step you can take to make a difference here.
Right.
Yeah, that's thank you. I've noticed that in your reporting. Thank you for including that. We have less than a minute, but we had a big election here in Wisconsin last week. Any reactions there to the victory, a 10-point victory to Judge Crawford in Illinois?
I just think it shows the tides are shifting, people thought maybe MAGA country won, but it shows that people are fed up with that and going to take a stand against it. So.
Well, I thank you, Jake, for being on the show today. We love having you here. You can read all of Jake's reporting if you go to windycitytimes.com in our show notes. So if you go to the website, am950radio.com, find today's show. We have a link in there to all of Jake's reporting. If you're listening on Spotify or watching on YouTube, it's right there for you as well. When you're there, be sure to sign up for their newsletter. Thank you, Jake, for joining us here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. More on The Gailey Show after this.
Hello, Minnesota. This is Stephanie Miller. Make sure to start your day off right with
Emma, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, great. There we go. Hi, I'm John.
I'm Jeremy.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. So we're going to switch back here to the feed of what's happening live right now on the air. If you see the chat on the right-hand side there, I've got the I can put time cues in there if you can see that chat.
Yep.
Okay, great. Do you have any questions for me before we go back to the feed?
No questions.
All right, great. Looking forward to talking with you.
Yeah, me too.
Discover how government impacts your daily life from the federal level all the way down to your local city. Each week, I'll share my key takeaways and teaching moments on crucial civics concepts to help understand what is happening in the current political environment. That's Politics Matters with Bruce Klopfler, Sundays at 5 p.m. or anytime on your favorite podcast app.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. We have families waiting for a car. Over 85% of unemployed are successful in finding and keeping a job if they have dependable transportation. A car plus a job equals a life changed. 612-919-5526. We have families waiting for a car. 919-5526 or autotech.org.
Hi, I'm Peter Solak.
And I'm Adam Ostrowski.
We are here at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces to talk about the joy of live fire cooking. Cooking over a live fire is the oldest and most basic form of cooking.
What's new is in the way a fire is handled and its heat is managed.
It's easier to experience and enjoy the smell and taste of food cooked over a live fire.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces sells and installs live fire grills, fire pits, and ovens. Let us help you experience the smell, the taste, the fun of cooking with fire.
Pizza was first made and is still best made in an open fire oven. The radiant and conductive heat of a live fire is unmatched for wood roasting and baking artisan breads too.
Come see the many ways you can cook over a live fire.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has over 35 working wood and gas units on display at the corner of East Franklin and Riverside Avenue in Minneapolis. More information at woodlandstoves.com. Find the fire that works for you. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. Out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Sunshine today with a high of 40, then tonight clear with a low of 25. The best roast beef sandwiches and so much more can be found at Maverick's Real Roast Beef in Roseville. And don't forget to pair your selection with freshly fried onion rings or fries for a winning combination. Maverick's is located on Lexington Avenue, a mile south of Highway 36. Visit their website at mavericksbeef.com. This is AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Broadcasting live from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Welcome back to the Gailey Show. It is 33 minutes after the hour. I am your host, John Parker. In studio with me, executive producer Jim Pounds.
Hey, all.
Okay, so the Council on LGBTQIA2S Minnesotans is an official state agency here in Minnesota advocating for the queer community here. Emma Watts, the council's executive director, joins us now. Emma, welcome to the Gailey Show.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
We're so thrilled to have you here to tell us a little bit more about the council. So for folks who don't know, this is a relatively new agency, correct?
That's right. We were formed by the legislature in 2023, and our job is to advocate for the needs of LGBTQIA2S plus people in Minnesota and to make recommendations on improvements to our lives to state leaders such as the governor, the state legislature, and other state agencies.
Now, is this an agency that reports to, like, who does this agency report to?
We're our own independent state agency. We're small but mighty, and we are similar to some other councils and task forces that exist. We're kind of modeled after the Council on Latino Affairs and African Heritage, but just serve a different constituency.
I'm curious how you have found the role going from the Biden administration now into the Trump administration and seeing all that. Where I'm going with that, less to speak to the politics of it, but more this onslaught that we're seeing from the federal level of trying to repeal everything and basically just try to erase queer people from all public life. I mean, how has that been impacting your day-to-day work? I imagine greatly.
Yeah, it is. Now more than ever, state level protections are essential, and we have to do everything we can at the state level to take care of LGBTQ folks. And we're really lucky in Minnesota. We've got really strong anti-discrimination laws, and we've got the trans refuge law, and by and large, folks are pretty protected here in Minnesota, but that doesn't mean that their lives are easy, that they have access to the things they need to thrive, or are even, thriving on levels similar to non-LGBTQ people. I think when we're talking in conversations with other state agencies, there's a lot of concern right now on how to shift their programs, the titles of their programs, the things they're working on in order to avoid federal cuts. So we're really concerned about this and the lack of visibility that we could see in just a couple of months as people start to make changes to their program. We are advising people to not pre-comply and to take visibility very seriously. It's a tool that we can use, and it's incredibly important at this moment.
I don't know if you can share or characterize how that looks, because just last week, I believe it was, the governor announced that there were going to be cuts at HHS already from losing federal funding, and to telling other agencies to prepare for that. Can you give us a little bit of what that advising looks like as it relates to the queer community as you're working with these other agencies and helping them out?
Yeah, absolutely. We never want to give advice to anybody that will cause them to lose serious funding that ultimately might help our communities in some form or fashion. It's really a case-by-case basis, and I know that agencies and their staff have to do what they think is best and what they think is right, and we know cuts are coming. What we want to say is to not pre-comply, to not do their job for them. We know that they're erasing us at a federal level. They're taking down our letters. They're taking down data that relates to our community. And part of their tactics right now is to kind of scare us out of existence, because they know it's going to be incredibly hard to criminalize us out of existence, especially trans people and gender expansive people. And so what we want to say to state agencies and state staff is, as much as possible, keep us visible, keep trans folks visible, and don't do their job for them.
So speaking of keeping things visible, a new initiative that you're doing, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And I say this as a person who used to work in LGBTQ health equity here in the state. And this was a number of years ago, I own that. But we were an organization that was conducting the only community-based version. So we weren't affiliated with an agency, community-based health survey that was really important data that I was using to then work with, medical academic degree programs and clinics and whatnot. And now you are also about to launch a community needs assessment survey. Can you tell us about what you're collecting in the data and what you hope to do with it?
Absolutely. This survey is a statewide initiative designed to capture the needs, challenges, and experiences of LGBTQ people in Minnesota today. We are, in addition to the survey, we've got a couple other methods of data collection, including small group conversations that are identity specific with the most underrepresented and underheard members of our communities, as well as a survey for organizations serving LGBTQ communities. We want to make sure this research is collecting data from kind of multiple angles and lenses. Our survey right now is more important than ever. It was important before January, and it's more important now. This survey, the insights from this survey, will create recommendations that we can make to state leaders about how to make sure LGBTQ people feel safe and supported. We're wanting to make sure we hear from folks all across the state. So we've got great community partnerships set up to help make sure we reach folks where they're at, especially considering we are a very new agency and still kind of getting our feet under us.
What are the topic areas then? So if someone's like, hey, I'm part of the community, I'm going to go ahead and take the survey. Like, what are the topic areas that they should expect as they're taking it?
There's a lot. It's incredibly comprehensive. And
Good.
it takes
I
about
love
15 to 30
data.
minutes. Yes. It takes about 15 to 30 minutes to do it. And it covers everything from education, demographics, health, legal, housing, general wellness and connectedness to community, and so much more. And when you go into the survey, you actually see a table of contents. So you can see how many issue areas are going to be covered, and you can kind of bop around to different areas if you wish, or you can follow it in the order it's set up in.
Can they like save answers and come back, or should they just do it all at once?
I would recommend doing it all at once, because if you're anything like me, you're probably going to forget to come back to it. But you can come back to the survey where you left off as long as you use the same browser. So if I stopped in the middle, closed it, and I was using Google Chrome, for example, and came back to Google Chrome and opened the survey link, I'd be right where I had left off.
Something that I really appreciated about the community here in Minnesota. So that organization I was with, we would go around all the prides doing and we would do a 4-page, it was a written, like sitting down, and it was 4 pages. Wait, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 4 pages. And people would take the time. They would, in the tent, they would come down, they'd sit down. We had tables. They would ask questions like, how do you want me to answer this? And, we'd advise us, as well as we could, given that it was we were conducting research. But I just loved the community support for that and recognizing how important it was and sitting down and being thoughtful about it. And sometimes those prides were really hot. So they were in a hot tent, sitting down, filling out information, talking like, hey, what about this? And da 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 da. So I'm really hopeful that will continue here with your survey as well, the commitment that folks have to sharing their stories here in Minnesota.
Well, and they would wait to fill out a survey. They would stand there
Yeah.
politely and wait for an empty chair, or spot of desk to write on. So it was kind of amazing, really.
And we had good swag, but not,
Yeah, it wasn't that good.
Some people really loved it, and some people were like, no, that's okay. They
And
understood
that's
the
saying
value of
something,
it.
because we love swag. We are drawn to it.
Yes.
Right. So hopefully that will continue here. This, as you're saying that too, it for folks who are feeling just so depressed with everything that's happening from the federal level, and yes, what happened, the hands off, going to marches and protests, right, are important. But here is something that is very tangible that you can sit down and giving that data and telling your story is just so important.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And we're getting incredible reception and have incredible numbers already. In the first couple of weeks, we had over 1,000 responses. We don't have
Wow.
updated numbers from this week, but we know that as of last week, it was over 1,300. People are taking the time to do this, and people are really excited about it. And that was something we weren't sure about. Again, we're a brand new agency, so we're not kind of tested in community. And a lot of people do not know who we are. Some people are like, I'm embarrassed to say I didn't know who you were. And I would say, I would be shocked if you did know who we are. We were formed in 2023, but we didn't become operational until May of 2024. So we have a lot of work to do to establish ourselves in community and to build that trust. And that's why we have partnered with community organizations. And if you go to the survey, you'll see those folks listed on there who are really helping us spread the word about this and get some credibility that this was designed by community, that we are somebody who can be trusted for something like this. But people are doing it, and people are incredibly excited to tell their story right now at a time where despair feels suffocating and people don't know where to go to fight back against everything that we're seeing at the federal level. This feels like a small but really mighty thing that somebody can do. So I'm glad that folks have that outlet, and I'm incredibly grateful that people are taking the time to sit down and share with us what they need, what they're experiencing. And a lot of that stuff is challenging to share for our communities. So just feel a lot of gratitude.
I'm a policy nerd, so I haven't met a survey that I haven't loved. But for folks who are wondering, okay, so what happens next? So I sit down, I thoughtfully do it in 20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes. What happens next then with the data? How are you using that?
Yep, we'll do a couple months or a few months of data analysis, and we'll look for patterns and kind of nuanced relationships between things. And we'll do a few things with that analysis and that data. One, I always say it will probably lead to more research. When you conduct research, it often leads to more research. And we know that's going to be the case. It'll give insights into something that we say, hey, this is something that we need to look at further. We need to understand kind of causation here. We're seeing a pattern, but what's causing this? And there might be particular communities that it's impacting more, and we need to study that. This will also shape the council's agenda. We've got kind of a emerging strategic plan that we know is ever evolving, but we've only been operational for under a year now. And so this will really shape our agenda and what we prioritize and what we focus on. It will also provide policy, administrative, and funding recommendations that we're going to make to the governor, legislature, and other state agencies.
More research is so important. You're a new agency. And so I just, from an editorial perspective, we need as much research, longitudinal and likewise, because we haven't really had that per se, particularly at a statewide level. So it's so important what we're doing. And I'm not trying to center myself here, but I know that when we started getting years of data to be able to go into, these healthcare centers and go, hey, X, Y, and Z are happening. And they would just go, really? Oh, we can actually do something with this. And I'm like, yeah, that is the value of having good, solid data and being able to continue to do that research is just really important.
I have a question. Is this survey just done online, or is that
good question.
Is that the one option?
It's primarily conducted online just because of the length of it. We are saying that folks can get a physical copy by request, and there will also be, probably in the next week or so, copies available at an organization called Queer Immunity, located in Uptown Minneapolis. So folks can go there and be in community and fill out the survey and put it in a secure Dropbox. But for many reasons, just the length of it, the accessibility, there's the kind of lack of security too around physical copies. We're really urging people to complete it online if they can. It's available in many languages, and including ASL, and is accessible to things like screen readers.
Great.
Perfect.
I'd gotten some phone survey that I thought was from the Minnesota Department of Health, and I think it's more because of my age. I think it was a senior health thing maybe, but I was thinking it was this survey, but it wouldn't have been. That was something else. So
right. Yeah.
Well, and we love our friends at Queer Immunity. And if you go there and you choose to do it there is an excellent Chef June Day at the cafe has an excellent grilled cheese sandwich.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It's so
with a
good.
really good pickle on the side.
Right? Yes. Emma, we're gonna fit in a break here. I'd love to talk more about the agency and the work that you do on the other side of the break, if you can stay with us.
Will do.
All right. One last break to get to. Please support our advertisers and sponsors. They keep conversations like this on the air. So go visit, shop with them. Tell them that you heard about them on The Gailey Show.
This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, weekdays at 5 p.m. On our show, you'll hear about Native issues like treaties, protecting Mother Earth, and holding our elected officials accountable. Weekly correspondents like Dr. Stately, State Senator Mary Kunesh, Robert Lilligren, and Bob Blake update us with the latest news from Turtle Island. Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues. Listen weekdays at 5 p.m. or watch the show on Native Roots Radio social media accounts. Ho-wah!
Tune in for Philosophy Talk, the program that questions everything.
Except your intelligence.
Coming up, the philosophy of smell.
Why have philosophers turned their noses up at olfaction? What have they got against the smell of freshly baked bread?
Yeah, focusing on our sense of smell can help us gain new insight into perception, thought, and language.
You think those insights will really pass the philosophical sniff test?
The philosophy of smell. Next time on Philosophy Talk.
Catch Philosophy Talk every Sunday morning at 8 on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Hey, it's Patrick. Spring showers may bring May flowers, but they also bring big savings with Zero Res. And right now, you can beat the spring cleaning rush with big savings and priority booking by calling our heroes at Zero Res. Zero Res removes winter's buildup and lingering odors, giving your home a fresh, spring-ready feel, preparing your home for the brighter days ahead. Just check out the almost 21,000 raving customer service reviews online with a 4.9 Google rating and see what all the hype is about. This month, get 3 rooms Zero Resified from Minnesota's #1 carpet cleaner starting at just $119 and take $75 off an air duct cleaning as well. You owe it to yourself and your family to breathe healthy, happy, and clean. Call Zero Res right now at 9520-RES or go online to ZeroResMinnesota.com and say you want the AM 950 special. Spell it backward or forward, it's the same. Zero Res.
Progressive change doesn't just happen. It takes dedication and a lot of hard work. 25 years ago, the Data Bank pioneered a new generation of software tools for progressive organizations here in Minnesota. Since then, thousands of organizations have used the Data Bank to create progressive change. Today, the Data Bank continues to help progressive organizations like AM 950. To have the Data Bank help your organization build capacity and create more change, text CHANGE to 612-540-0500 or go to thedatabank.com. The Data Bank, a quarter century of dedication and hard work for progressive organizations.
Some days I feel so down, I can barely get out of bed. Is this depression?
I feel so tense and worried all the time. Is this anxiety?
Check up on your mental health. Take an online mental health screening at mentalhealthmn.org. Mental Health Minnesota has online mental health screenings, resources, support, and connections to treatment and crisis services. All anonymous, confidential, free of charge, and open 7 days a week. Mental Health Minnesota is here for you. mentalhealthmn.org. Sponsored by Mental Health Minnesota, the Minnesota Broadcasters Association, and this station.
Welcome back to the Gailey Show. I'm your host, John Parker. We are here with Emma Watts, Executive Director of the Council on LGBTQIA2S Minnesotans, MNQT, an official state agency advocating for the queer community. We're talking about their Community Needs Assessment Survey. We are going to have a link to it in our show notes. You can go to our website, am950radio.com, find today's date, and we'll have the link in there. If you're watching on YouTube or streaming us on any of the podcast platforms, it is right there in the show notes, ready to go for you. Emma, real quick, if we can talk about protecting data. So I know this comes up a lot for folks of, well, how is my data going to be protected? Is this going to be confidential? What's the answer to that?
Yeah, this was something we thought about a lot before doing this. We knew that if anybody was going to be put at risk, even one person or two people, this wouldn't be worth it. So we took extra precautions to protect people's data privacy and make sure that nobody could be identified through this, or that we were collecting, too much information where that reverse identification could be made possible. I think right now, LGBTQ people in particular are really nervous about kind of being tracked by the government. Historically, haven't had great experiences with the government, and right now, just the fear of kind of data security is very real. So we've designed the survey so that to minimize the risk of reverse identification, and that risk is increased when you collect a lot of kind of minute demographic data. So if you collect data on someone's zip code, their religious affiliation, their ethnicity, their gender, In places like Greater Minnesota, all of those things combined, if you're part of a minority community, you could be identified pretty easily. So we've designed our survey to avoid some of that. We're also housing our data with another state agency that has additional legal protections given to them by Minnesota state law that allows them to handle this data more securely. Unlike, most agencies, this agency, it's called Management Analysis and Development, or MAD for short. MAD's data is protected until and when they share the data to somebody else. So what they'll do is clean up the data, make sure nobody can be reverse identified. If somebody shared the name of their employer, they'll remove that and make sure that when we get the data, which will be public data, that it's secure.
That's great. That's fantastic. Again, we'll have a link to it in the show notes on our website. And if you're watching on YouTube and Apple Podcasts, Emma, I mean, this is the first time we've had an agency like this here in the state of Minnesota. Can you talk about what it's been like to get it up and running over the past year? I mean, it's been super easy, right? I mean, no problems whatsoever.
Totally. Navigating bureaucracy is always just a breeze. I mean, it's probably not very exciting for people because the first, 4 months we're just getting our feet under us, turning the lights on, opening the doors, metaphorically, because we actually just got an office in December. But a lot of it is just budgeting. And for me, learning how state processes work internally, and hiring and finding office space and working with our council, the 12, governor appointed public voting members that kind of govern this council, working with them to develop some strategic plan that could guide us in this interim period of time before we were able to really capture data and do deep community engagement.
That's fantastic. And for folks, so you said earlier that it was created through a legislative act. What does that mean for folks who are like, wait a minute, does the governor do this? Does the legislature do this? Like, how does an agency come to be for folks who don't know that process?
Yeah, we're created by the legislature, which means somebody, Representative Breanne Curran in the House and Senator Aaron McQuaid in the Senate, created a bill that created us. It established that the Minnesota Council on LGBTQIA2S Plus community is going to be an established state agency with its own budget, its own funding stream, and that is made through the state government committee. So that passed through traditional legislative methods and was approved by the legislature as a whole within an omnibus bill. And then the governor signed that omnibus bill into existence. So that's kind of how we were born. So the legislature would have to go through that same process really to remove us from statute.
Wow.
There's been a lot of talk about people coming to the state since 2023, and I don't think anybody knows any sort of numbers. I've heard all kinds of different numbers, but I'm really glad this exists as a kind of affirmation, I guess, that the state's serious about, protecting LGBT people, and that I think data is one of the most serious things you can do, and I'm glad that this is what your organization is doing rather than maybe just advocacy, which is very important, but this data is, as John said, so, it's like a stake in the ground, and it's so grounding. So I applaud you for that approach. I think it's great.
Thank you. And yeah, to touch on people moving to Minnesota, that is a big reality. We know that's happening in really mass numbers. We know that the pressures on healthcare systems and direct service organizations are increasing. So that's a real pressure. And one of our survey questions identifies if somebody has moved to Minnesota in recent years. So we can kind of get some data and some numbers there. And of course, can't compare that to previous years when we weren't collecting that data, but still get some insight. And actually, there's a group called MNTERN, Minnesota Trans and Intersex Resource Network, that has been collecting this data of people moving to Minnesota who have contacted organizations kind of within that network of orgs. And they've gotten some really good data on people moving here. I don't have recent numbers, but I just remember in the first 6 months, there was over 150 individuals or family units that were moving to Minnesota to escape anti-LGBTQ kind of persecution or discrimination from other states. And that's particularly true, again, for trans and gender expansive people.
Emma Watts, this has been so great to meet you, to talk about the survey. Again, we have links to it on our website for today. Look up today's episode on our show notes for all of our other things as well. Emma, thank you for joining us here to be on the Gailey Show.
Thanks for your work and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Not Native Roots Radio.
His name is Matt McNeil.
Matt McNeil is coming up next. After that, Native Roots Radio. Keep it tuned here, and we will see you tomorrow at 2 p.m. Bye, everybody.